Time, speed, and distance. Hello, friends. I am Rajesh. As we are aware that question of time, speed, and distance are asked in almost every quantitative aptitude exam. However, in this video, our focus would be on CAT examination. This video is an attempt to understand the concept of time, speed, and distance with the help of solving several classic questions in this area. This will surely help you to understand the concept in depth and apply this in the exam successfully. It would be better if you are ready with pen and paper to write down the practice questions and to solve any calculation you want to solve, or you want to solve the questions while I am reading. First problem: a train is approaching in a tunnel XY. Inside the tunnel, a cat is located at 1/8 of the length of the tunnel from its entrance. When the train whistles, the cat runs towards the entrance of the tunnel. If the cat is running towards entrance, the train catches the cat exactly at entrance. If the cat tries to run to the exit end, that is the other end, the train catches the cat exactly at the exit. You are supposed to calculate the ratio of speed of train to cat. Now, from the illustration we can see the cat was at 1/8 of distance of the tunnel. It tries to run to the entrance and meets the train at the entrance, whereas in second part of the question, when it tries to run to the exit, it is caught by the train exactly at the exit. We can see that cat is running at a constant speed. If we assume that length of the tunnel is 8 kilometer, in first illustration it covers 1 kilometer of the tunnel towards the entrance, whereas it is covering 7 kilometer towards the exit end. It is important to see the second part of that. If the cat is running 7 kilometers toward the exit, when it has covered 1 kilometer, the train must be at the entrance. How? We can see from the first part, while running toward the entrance, when the cat has covered just 1 kilometer, the train has reached entrance. So if the cat is running in other direction and it has covered 1 kilometer at the same time, the train would reach entrance. So now from here we can see in the same time cat is covering 6 kilometer towards the exit, whereas in the same time train is covering the whole length of the tunnel, that is 8 kilometer, to catch the cat at the exit. Time is constant in the so the ratio of covered distance of cat and train would be 6:8 or 3:4. As the time is constant, the ratio of the speed of cat and train would be 3:4. 3 represents here a speed of cat and 4 represents here speed of train. Now a practice question for you. This question is using the same concept but in a different manner. In this question, a deer is standing 80 meter in front of in from the west end of a tunnel. The deer sees a train approaching from the west at a constant speed, 10 times the speed of the deer can run. The deer reacts by running towards the train and clears the exit when the train is 20 meters from the tunnel. If the deer ran in the opposite direction, it would hit by the train at the eastern entrance. How long is the tunnel? You have to calculate the total length of the tunnel using the same concept. Now let us take second problem. A hunter fired two shots from the branch of a tree at an interval of 76 seconds. A lion separating too fast. Here, the two shots at an interval of 83 seconds. If the velocity of the sound is 332 meter per second, then you have to find the speed of the lion at which it is running. Through illustration, we can see when the first sound, the after listening to it, the lion starts running, and it ran for 76 seconds. When the lion has ran for 76 seconds, the second time the sound has reached at the same position, the lion continued to run, and at the end of 83 seconds, the second sound reached lion. Now you are supposed to calculate the speed of lion in comparison to the speed of sound. From the illustration, it is very clear that the lion, from first arrow till the end, lion continued to run for 83 seconds, whereas the sound reached at the position of arrow at the end of 76 seconds, and it caught lion at the end of 83 seconds. It means the sound covered the same distance in 7 seconds. So the ratio of time for covering the same distance by lion and the sound is 83:7. So ratio of the speed, see, the distance from the arrow and the end point is constant, is same for the lion to cover and for the sound to cover. So when the distance is constant, the ratio of time will be inverse to the speed of both the elements. So the ratio of speed of sound and lion would be 83:7, or lion and sound we can say 7:83. It is given the sound of the speed, so we can calculate the speed of lion. That would be 28 meter per second. Now here a practice question for you. Anuj was practicing firing shots in an open field near a road. Anuj fired two shots at an interval of 12 minutes. However, Agraj, his elder brother, who was approaching in a jeep, heard the two shots at an interval of 11 minutes 30 seconds. The velocity of the sound is 330 meter per second. Then find speed of the jeep. Now let us take the problem 3. Man goes to the fair in Wonderland with his son and faithful dog. Unfortunately, man misses his son, which he realizes 20 minutes later. The son started towards his home at the speed of 10 meters per minute at the same time, and man follows him after realizing a 20 meter per minute speed. The dog runs to the son and comes back to the man to show him the direction of his son. It keeps moving to and fro at 40 meters per minute between son and father till the man meets the son. You have to calculate the distance traveled by the dog in the direction of the son. You should remember that this question may be asked in some other manner also. It may be asked, what is the distance traveled by the dog? What is the distance traveled by the dog in the direction of father instead of son? While solving this, you'll be able to know that how to answer those questions also. Now in the question it is given that the father could realize only 20 minutes that his son has left and his son is not with him. So for 20 minutes his son kept on walking at the speed of 10 meters per minute. So after 20 minutes the distance between a father would be 200 meters, which the father has to cover with the relative speed. as father and son both are moving in the same direction towards the home, we know that relative speed would be the difference of their speed. So the relative speed between father and son would be 10 meter per minute. With this relative speed, father has to catch his son. How much time will he take to catch his son? 20 minutes he will take to catch his son. During this time, for 20 minutes, the father kept on walking. So the total distance covered by father to catch his son would be 400 meters with a speed of 20 meters per minute. Now the dog since beginning was running between father and son. So the total time the dog kept on running is 20 minutes. The speed at which dog was running is given in the question is 40 meter per minute. So the total distance covered by the dog in that time is 800 meters. No. Now watch that this 800 meters distance covered by dog is in both direction. Some distance he has covered while running towards the son, and some distance he has covered while running towards father. It is also important to note that the starting point of the dog is at the place of fear, where the father starts, and the end point where the dog stops running, where father and son are meeting. The place is 400 meters away from the place where fair was happening. So the total resultant distance covered by the dog would be distance covered in the direction of sun minus distance covered in father's direction. We know that this dog ended 400 meters away from the fair, from his starting position towards in the direction of sun. So that distance would obviously be more. So we deduct the distance covered in father's direction, we'll get the resultant distance. From the above, we know that the resultant distance covered by the dog is 400 meters. So we have got an equation that is 400 minus S minus F. S represents distance covered by dog in sun's direction, and F represents here distance covered by dog in father's direction. Now from above we know what is total distance covered by the dog. It is 800 meters. Now this distance includes both the distance covered in sun's direction and distance covered in father's direction. We have two equations. From above we can solve the value for S, and that is 600 meters. So this answer, the question is 600 meters. Practice question for you is: two trains start simultaneously from two stations, Ahmedabad and Mumbai, respectively towards each other on the same track. The distance between the two stations is 560 km and the speed of the trains are 30 and 40 km per hour. Simultaneously with the trains, a sparrow sitting on the top of one of the train starts towards the other and reverse its direction on reaching the other train, and so on. The speed of sparrow is 80 km per hour. The distance that the sparrow flies before being crushed between the train is. You have to calculate the total distance covered by sparrow. Let's take another problem. Richa was traveling in her boat when the wind blew her hat off and the hat started floating back downstream. The boat continued to travel upstream for 30 more minutes before Richa realized that her hat had fallen off and turned back downstream. She caught up with that as soon as it reached the starting point. Find the speed of river if Richa's hat flew off exactly 3 km from where she started. So we can see from here that from initial position the cat has fallen. Richa kept on moving in the boat upstream for 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes only she realized, and then she came back to pick her hat. Now from first arrow and second arrow the distance is given 3 kilometers. So the time Richa went and came back, in the same time the hat has traveled 3 kilometers from first arrow position to second arrow position. Now it is a very good example of relative speed. Let us assume that u is the speed of boat and speed of current is v. Now we know that while going, Richa's boat was traveling upstream. So while traveling upstream, the speed of boat we know is relative speed of boat would be u minus v. Actual speed of the boat would be u minus v. Now at the same time, hat has fallen and it started moving in the other direction from the boat. So relative speed of boat and hat would be u minus v plus v is equal to u. So with the speed of u, the boat and hat started separating with each other for half an hour. Now let us see what will happen when Richa is coming back. While returning, the speed of boat would be u plus v. U the speed of boat and v would be the speed of current. So total speed of the boat would be u plus v. The speed of hat is v, as we know, the speed of the current as the speed of the current. So relative speed of boat and hat would be u plus v minus v, as the hat and boat both are moving in the same direction. It will be the difference of the speed of boat and hat. So the resultant speed would be u. Now they are coming close to each other. Hat and boat would be coming close to each other with the same speed u. Now it is given in the question that Richa kept on moving in other direction for half an hour with the speed of u you have just seen. Now if Richa went at the speed of u, created some distance with hat with a relative speed of u, to cover the same distance with the same speed, the Richa must have taken the same time, that is 30 minutes. So from moving first arrow, she went and came back. She must have taken to catch the train total time, catch the hat. She must have taken total time of 1 hour. Means the hat kept on moving for 1 hour from first arrow to second arrow. So in 1 hour the hat has moved 3 kilometers from first arrow to second arrow. Hat was moving as the speed of the current of the river. So speed of the river would be 3 kilometers per hour. Now practice question for you. A boat went down the river for a distance of 20 kilometers, then turned back and returned to its starting point, having traveled a total of 7 hours. Now upstream and downstream, here it is given. The boat has taken 7 hours to cover a distance of 20 kilometers. Now on its return trip, at a distance of 12 kilometers from the starting point, it encountered a log which had passed the starting point at the moment at which the boat had started downstream. What is the downstream speed of the boat? It is clear from the question that the boat initially went for downstream, and while returning it is meeting the log on the way. It means it is coming back upstream, and log was moving the same downstream. So you have to calculate the speed of the boat, downstream speed of the boat. Problem 5. Arjit walks on an escalator at a rate of 5 steps per second and reaches the other end in 10 seconds. While coming back, walking at the same speed, he reaches the starting point in 40 seconds. What is the number of steps on the escalator? Here it is important to learn. In such questions, the escalator is always either moving up or moving down. The same moving up escalator is being used for going up, and same escalator would be used for coming down. It is for the purpose of solving the question. It is requested not to attempt such things while you are moving on escalator. Now this concept of escalator can be easily understood in the way we have understood the concept of boat and stream. It is just another version of that. We can consider that the escalator is the speed of the river or current, and the person movement is the speed of the boat, as we see. Now I have taken up two different methods for solving such questions. One is equation method and second is ratio methods. Now it is given in the question that Arjit has moved in first part of the question 5 steps per second, and he covered the total distance in 10 seconds. So he must have covered 50 steps. In second part of the question, Arjit took 40 seconds to cover all the steps, that is 200 steps. Now at the same time escalator is moving. Let us take x is the number of steps covered by the escalator in 10 seconds. If 10 seconds escalator is moving x steps, in 40 seconds it must be covering 4x number of steps. Now we know that from the ground floor Arjit must have gone to the first floor or second floor, the next floor. The distance covered is fixed. In first part the escalator must be moving upward and Arjit is also moving upward. They are moving in the same direction. So after moving only 50 steps, he has reached to the next floor. So he must have 50 steps if Arjit has taken. The remaining steps are covered by escalator. So total covered distance by Arjit in first part is 50 plus x. X are the number of steps covered by escalator in 10 seconds. Whereas in second part, Arjit covered 200 steps. That means that he has to cover some extra steps which were covered by escalator. So in 40 seconds escalator is covering 4x steps. So if we deduct 4x out of 200, we will get the actual distance Arjit has to covered from moving from the latest floor to previous floor. Now we have this equation 50 plus x is equal to 200 minus 4x. 5x is equal to 150, so x is equal to 30 steps. Now value of x is equal to 30 steps means escalator is moving 30 steps in 10 seconds. Arjit has moved 50 steps. So total steps in the escalator is 80 steps. So it requires 80 steps to go from one floor to another floor. Ratio method. We know it is given that in both the situation how much time is being taken by Arjit. It is 10 seconds to 40 seconds. Ratio would be 1:4. Now ratio of speed would be inverse in both the situation of the time, that will be 4:1. So from if we correlate it to downstream and upstream, downstream speed is coming 4 and upstream speed is coming 1. Accordingly, speed of Arjit and escalator would be 2.5 and 1.5. It is already given that Arjit moves 5 steps per second. So from the above, if Arjit is moving 5 steps, escalator would be moving 3 steps per second. So length of the stairs would be distance covered by Arjit and escalator in 10 seconds, that is 10 into 5 means 50 steps plus 10 into 3 30 steps, that is 80 steps. Now a practice question for you. It takes 40 seconds for Akash to climb up a moving up escalator and 60 seconds to move down same moving up escalator. How long will it take for him to move up the escalator when it is switched off? It is the similar kind of equation or ratio method you can use it. Now another question. Anju and Manju, they start swimming towards each other from the deep end and shallow end respectively of a swimming pool. They start their swimming simultaneously in the length of 300-meter pool. The ratio of their speed is 2:3 respectively. Each swimmer rest for 6 seconds once she reaches the other end and starts swimming back. Where will they meet for the second time in the still water of swimming pool? Now illustration, deep end is taken on the left hand side and shallow end is taken on the right hand side. Anju is starting from the deep end and is moving with a speed of 2, and Manju is starting from the shallow end with a speed of 3. They meet for the first time. They must have covered single distance d combined, and while meeting for the second time, from the above lines you can see the first red line, it covers the whole d, second blue line, it covers again second d, and third red and blue line, it takes 3d. So first time when Anju and Manju met, collectively they had covered distance 1d. When second time they met, collectively they had covered distance 3d. That means 3 into 300, that is 900 meters. Now it is given that their speed is 2:3. So covered distance by them would be in the same ratio. Why would be the same ratio? As the total time they were swimming is the same for both of them. So the covered distance would also be the same and 2:3 as their speed. So we can find out that out of 900 meters how much Anju has covered starting from deep end. It is coming 360 meters. The length of the pool is 300 meters. So after 300 meter, Anju from deep end has reached shallow end, and from shallow end they must be meeting second time 60 meters away from the shallow end. Now a practice question for you. Aurangzeb and Babur with their troops left from Delhi and Daulatabad towards each other simultaneously. Each of them marched at a constant speed, and having arrived at their respective points of destination, went back at once. Their first meeting was 14 km from Daulatabad, and second meeting 8 hours after the first meeting was at a distance of 2 km from Delhi. Find the distance between the Delhi and Daulatabad. Another problem, let's take it. Two people A and B start moving from P and Q that are 200 km apart towards each other. A is on a moped and B is on foot. They meet at a point R when A gives B a lift to P and returns to his original path to reach Q. On reaching Q, he finds that he has taken 2.6 times his normal time. B, on the other hand, realizes that he has saved 40 minutes over his normal travel time. Find the ratio of their speed of A and B. Now let's see the illustration and try to understand the question. Here A is starting on moped from P and B is walking from point Q. They meet at the arrow and he is being dropped at P and then he goes back to the Q. Now from the question we can see that the person on the bike, that is A, has to cover extra distance from P to the arrow and then comes back, and then he goes back to the position Q. Let us assume that the normal time for A and B to cover distance between P and Q is T1 and T2 respectively. It is given in the question that A on moped has taken 2.6 into T1 hours. Normal timing is T1. It means A has taken 1.6 T1 extra time. This extra time 1.6 T1 is for A starting from P to the arrow where it is meeting B and taking it back to the position P. So this 1.6 T1 is the repeat of the distance from P to the arrow. So A must be, while starting from P, must have taken 0.8 into T1 time to reach to arrow. As we know the time and distance, if the speed is constant for A, cover distance would be in the same proportion, that is 0.8 D. So at the point of meeting on arrow, A must have covered 80%, 0.8 D of the total distance. 0.8 into D, that is total distance, while B starting from Q has reached at the arrow, must have covered the remaining distance, that is 0.2 D. So they, as it is given that they started at the same time, the covered distance in the same time while reaching arrow is 0.8 D and 0.2 D. So the ratio of cover distance would be 0.8 is to 0.2, that is 4 is to 1. Now ratio of speed would be also the same, that is 4 is to 1 for A and B. Now there are two practice examples to understand this concept clearly. First practice example has two tourists left simultaneously point A for point B. The first tourist covers each kilometer 2 minutes faster than the second. After traveling 30% of the way, the first tourist returned to A, stopped there for 102 minutes and again started for B. The two tourists arrive at B simultaneously. You have to tell what is the distance between A and B. If the second tourist covered the whole distance in 2.5 hours. Now second example, it is more interesting than the first practice question. There are three friends, Farhan, Raju and Rancho. They planned for a movie. Only Rancho had a bike and traffic rules in their city was so stringent that they could not do tripling. So Rancho and Raju started on bike and Farhan started walking from their hostel towards cinema hall. Rancho was good at calculation like you. He dropped Raju on the way asking him to walk towards cinema hall and returned to pick up Farhan. After picking up Farhan, both of them on bike reached cinema hall at the same time Farhan reached. If at the same time Raju reached. If speed of Rancho on bike and speed of Raju and Farhan was in ratio 4 is to 1 is to 1, and if Raju walked for 30 kilometers, then you have to tell what is the distance from hostel to cinema hall. Now let us take a last problem of this session. Natasha's school bus usually drops her off in town every day at 4 p.m. and her mother picks her up at the bus stop. Last Friday was a short day and only Natasha's mother forgot, so she was not at the bus stop when Natasha was dropped off an hour early at 3 p.m. Natasha has forgotten her cell phone at home. She decided to walk home along her mother's driving route. Her mother left home at the usual time and picked Natasha up along the way. They arrived home 10 minutes before their usual arriving time. At what time did Natasha's mother pick her up? Now let's see the illustration. Normal position, mother is starting from the home, picking up the child and going back to the home from bus stop. The second illustration, 3 o'clock from bus stop, the girl starts walking and mother meets her somewhere near the arrow in between and came back to the home. Now in second position, second illustration, mother was going to reach bus stop at 4 o'clock. Instead of reaching there at 4 o'clock, some minutes ago, she found her child at the place of arrow and she goes back. This helps her to save 10 minutes time. So total time saved by the mother is 10 minutes. Now this time is saved because mother did not has to go from arrow to bus stop and she did not has to come back. So she did not cover actual the distance which would have taken 5 minutes. Mother must be taking 5 minutes from arrow to reach bus stop and 5 minutes she must be taking to come back, half of the time of 10 minutes. So total 10 minutes are saved. Whereas from bus stop, Natasha started walking and she must have reached at arrow 5 minutes less than 4 o'clock. So she must be walking for 55 minutes. So her mother must have picked her up at 3:55. It is important to note here that the child, means Natasha, has covered the distance from bus stop to arrow in 55 minutes, whereas the mother has covered the same distance in 5 minutes. And there is a ratio of speed of reverse to the time they are taking, that is 1:11. At the end, I thank you for seeing this video and listening to me. I wish you all the best for your examination. My email is given as 2rajeshps@gmail.com. You are free to write and give your feedback and any other illustration you required to solve. Thank you.